Welcome into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, producer Stone Shields, behind the scenes for today's live show. A rather busy day in the NFL in what could be a very busy week, depending on what and when happens in terms of the Davante Adams trade. But the Jets making the big move of the day. They fired head coach Robert Salah on Tuesday. A slight surprise, at least from a timing perspective. We all knew he was on the hot seat, but the timing of that one certainly an interesting development there. So did the Jets make the right call firing Robert Saleh? Y for yes, N for no. Get those votes in for me at the pin poll. You can click yes or no, and in the comment section as well. I get firing him at some point. They're a game out of the division lead in the AFC East. If they had won this next game, they were in first place. If a 2-3 start was all it was going to take to fire him, why is he back here? You shouldn't have done that last offseason. That's all you needed was 2 losses, one of which against an undefeated team. Like I find that all very interesting. So did the Jets make the right call in firing Robert Saleh? Y for yes, N for no. Lot background stuff or behind the scenes stuff that may be going on. Seems like it was a pure ownership decision. According to Woody Johnson, didn't really consult with the GM, made the decision there. And then it comes out that allegedly Saleh was contemplating firing the offensive coordinator who loves Aaron Rodgers and vice versa. And there's accusations of Rodgers' influence there. So did the Jets make the right call firing him? Y for yes, N for no. Shelly says no. EV says no. REI Ron Miner, I think that's right, said no. Joey's got a no in there. Christopher has yes. Jacob just got it, says yes. In the end, this entire organization right now is Aaron Rodgers. So you better hope that the Hackett thing works out because I think the defense was great in New York. Legitimately had been the best defense in football over the past 3 years combined since 2021. Truly the best defense in that entire time frame. Offense was bad. Head coach gets blamed for that. I just find the timing really curious. So, Y for yes, N for no. 53% voting yes on today's show. Now, today's live NFL Daily is made possible by Game Time. Got a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It's curation designed to save you more on concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Today's show also made possible by Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Download the app over at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. No Santana 14. If the Jets miss out on Davante Adams' instant rebuild mode, they won't be rebuilding, actively choosing to do that this year. Part of the reason why Woody Johnson made this decision is he thinks the Jets have a good team and they want to win games now. Now, after this year, depending on what the heck happens with Aaron Rodgers, you might very well be in rebuild mode because we'll see if Jordan Travis is anything more than, I think, maybe a backup quarterback in the NFL. They might not be successful in their win-now mindset, but this entire organization is built to win right now. They have not really worried too much about the future. Yeah, they drafted Olu Fashanu, who's playing some. You don't sign guys like Tyron Smith to rebuild. So they are trying to win now. And if it doesn't work this season, then you could very well see that tear down up in New York. So who will be the Jets' next head coach? He meant no clarified after this year. Yes, I agree. So we are on the same page there, no. Appreciate your super chat. Who will be the Jets' next head coach? Let me know in the comments of today's show. I think there's a lot of routes they could go. I think two names very much stand out to me that we'll get to as part of today's Robert Saleh replacements. I don't want to mention who it is because I want you guys to stay here and watch. Ben Johnson is in there from DC times Viper. Christopher Flores and J-Dog both say Belichick. Can you imagine? Belichick isn't the only former Jets head coach, technically speaking, who is available and could be a quality candidate. Get to that in a little bit. Evie says the Boise State head coach. Nope, not going to happen. Matt Campbell, the Iowa State head coach, going under the radar. John Gruden. I don't think he's ever going to coach again in the NFL. Especially for Woody Johnson, who is like very much a key cog in the NFL top-end decision-making grouping. Adam Gase, that's funny. Mike Zimmer, I doubt it, but if he gets the head coach, I was probably douse. Ben Johnson should be behind everyone's list. Ben Johnson also gets to kind of pick a spot to an extent. He probably doesn't want New York because of the quarterback uncertainty. Like, the Johnson has the leverage, unlike some candidates, to pick and choose his spot. I don't think he wants to have a year of Aaron Rodgers, 2 years of Aaron Rodgers, and then start over at the most important spot when that's the stuff that ends up getting you fired. So, who will be the Jets' next head coach? Oh, Rex Ryan. That's also funny. He interviewed for the Cowboys DC job. He'd love to coach him, but there's no chance the Jets end up bringing him back. So, see Kliff Kingsbury in there as well. We'll talk about several of those coaches in the comments later on in today's show. We will also check in on the Davante Adams situation. Who will end up trading for him? Now, you've got Derek Carr is going to miss at least a couple of weeks. So that raises question marks about his fit there. Jets have now fired their head coach. That raises some question marks on their spot. Are the Jets going to trade an asset for an interim head coach? That's a dangerous game to play. The Saints' interest was looking to Derek Carr. Maybe the Ravens are looking a little bit nice from that perspective. Who trades for Davante Adams? We got Eric Mangini in there. Now we're having Jets legends at head coach, man. It's funny. Let's see. I'm not sure why Rodgers accusing Saleh of being politically correct. Not sure what's up with that one. Chiefs. I would be pretty shocked if they went down that path because I don't see the Raiders pursuing that. Chiefs, Commanders, Patriots, Bills. I think the Ravens, maybe Davante Adams wasn't lying when he posted the Edgar Allan Poe thing. Commanders would be a fun fit if they want to try to be a bit more aggressive there. Steelers need it. Part of the reason why they were so desperate to get a receiver wasn't because they wanted to pair someone with George Pickens. They were also worried about George Pickens himself. And you saw it in the Cowboys games, right? He checked out. No Santana 14. I don't know. Can I even say this one out on YouTube? I don't know if I can. He's kidding. It's funny. I think this is where I say no Diddy, right? That's what I said to that. Davante Adams trade fits. What you got here? Jets and Saints are the only options from ACB Collects. Ravens. Ed Robbins says Jets next coach is Mike McCarthy. I actually wouldn't totally rule that one out. He did an interview last time. I did not put him on the list because he is under contract, but that's a sneaky decent option, dark horse option there. If you are ready for us to start today's live show, then please like the video. The goal is always to have a 50% like ratio. We're at 20 likes right now, so we're not that close to it, given we've got 160 people watching live. So like today's video if you haven't already done so. Like that video right now. All right, coming up on today's live show, we've got Robert Saleh replacements, a mailbag, #NFL or Super Chat, and we'll run through some NFL rumors and news. The big updates, of course, on Davante Adams. We'll talk Deshaun Watson, too, because I went back and reviewed more in depth, and it's actually even worse than I thought. Everyone thought it was bad. It's It's very, very bad. So that's all coming up live here on NFL Daily. The Jets made the surprise decision on Tuesday to move on from head coach Robert Saleh after just a 2-3 start to the season. The timing was interesting. We all knew Saleh was on the hot seat entering the season in New York. The whole point of bringing him back was you're going to have a healthy Aaron Rodgers. You can make a run at it. The defense remained really good in New York the entire time he was there. But he never figured out the offensive coordinator, and he never figured out the head coach, or the quarterback, which Aaron Rodgers stuff looms very large here. The Jets have sworn Rodgers was not consulted, and I believe the leak on this next part came from the Saleh camp of, well, he was considering firing OC Nathaniel Hackett, or at least demoting him. And I don't know if it's even a conspiracy. Like there's like some credibility to it of Rodgers got wind of it, and he talked to Woody Johnson the night before. That did happen. Somehow the head coach firing didn't come up when talking to the quarterback. It's all very weird timing. It also might just be ownership who wasn't actually involved in the hiring the first time because he was the ambassador to the UK, never liked him, and has his excuse to fire him. It's just weird timing because if you're going to fire him at 2-3, a game out of first place in the division, a win this week would have put him in first place, why'd you even bother bringing him back? So did the Jets make the right call firing Robert Saleh? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Next up, we'll look at some of the top Jets head coach candidates. And this list will change and evolve throughout the season because, well, the interim's going to get a real chance to do it. Internal candidates in general have a chance there. The Jets have a chance to do something pretty funny. At number 10, it's Bill Belichick, the former head coach of the New England Patriots, who, as I'm sure you guys know, was once the coach of the New York Jets for a day. And at his introductory press conference, wrote, "I resign" on a napkin and used his press conference to explain why he was going to take the Patriots head coaching job. His name has got linked a lot. I'd be a little surprised if it happened because, that ended badly for all, like that. There's some bad blood there, I think. But it is a noteworthy name. I think you have to acknowledge it as at least discussion point because some people have brought it up before as well. Number 9, Pete Carroll, the Seahawks head coach. This, by the way, also a former Jets head coach. Now, his tenure in New York, the worst of his bunch. He was also not that great in New England, where there was the Pete Carroll to Bill Belichick replacement timeline, which is, again, makes this whole thing kind of a weird circle of connections. USC did a great job, scandals aside. Seahawks overall very successful. You could almost argue, specifically for New York, that Pete Carroll might make more sense. These are two of the biggest names that are going to be available. I put them low on this list because I don't really have any connection credibility to it. I don't think they're the most likely options. In general, because I think this list can also be expanded for other teams beyond the Jets, and not just Jets fans are watching this, obviously. Who is the better head coach candidate? BB for Bill Belichick, PC for Pete Carroll. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Number 8, I think his stock has fallen from where it was a few seasons ago. Matt Campbell, who had been linked to this job the first time, or I guess the most recent time it came open. Campbell was very successful at Toledo, has mostly been good at Iowa State. Now, the overall results have not been as successful. He's kind of slowed down the heater he was on. They're kind of now settled into about a 7-win team. Successful college football coach who has been pretty well regarded in his time by the NFL for what he's done in college. Like, Iowa State's an easy place to win. It's Iowa State. It's not like he's got the assets of some of the big-name programs out there. Now, I do want to briefly mention some other potential college football head coach candidates. You can bet Lincoln Riley is going to be linked to this job. I think he would hate the New York media market. I don't think that'd be a good fit for him when he's already had issues with the USC and Oklahoma student reporters sometimes. I don't think Ryan Day is that great of a head coach, but he's seemingly always mentioned in these various lists that I've seen elsewhere. Steve Sarkisian's fun, but I kind of think it's not the best fit in the NFL. At some point, I could see Kirby Smart taking a jump there, which I think is noteworthy. Deion Sanders is going to get linked, but that doesn't make any sense at all. I think he'd be a bad NFL coach. I don't think he wants to be an NFL coach either. So who will be the New York Jets' next head coach? Let me know in the comments section of today's show who will be the Jets' next head coach. I expect to see his name linked here pretty frequently. That is Kliff Kingsbury, the Commanders' offensive coordinator. He has done a better job so far. We've also seen this story before, where Kliff starts off hot, and then his offenses fade each month as it goes along. And it's going to get tougher in Washington right now. Also this part, I think he'd be a terrible head coach again. I think Kliff might even admit that. Like, he wasn't good at Texas Tech. He got fired by Texas Tech, and then within 2 months was the Cardinals head coach, which was unbelievable, failing upward. He was in charge, partially in charge of a not great USC offense, and got the Commanders' OC job. He kind of keeps finding ways to fail upward. It doesn't make much sense to me, but the NFL's always been infatuated with him and his offenses. I would not be surprised if this continues with the success with Jaden Daniels if he gets some interviews. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks put it at the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It is curation designed to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You can toggle the all-in pricing feature to show your total cost up front with no surprise fees as checkout. Get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. That's one of my favorite features. Like, you can actually see what your view is going to look like. The Game Time guarantee is this. They will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. So what time is it? It's Game Time. Number 6 on the list is Brian Flores. Now, there is the off-the-field stuff, the lawsuit against the NFL, which maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't, that might make him a less attractive head coach candidate. He also had real issues with the offensive players, the Tua Tagovailoa, etc. in Miami. Very valid concerns. In terms of purely what he's doing on defense in Minnesota, it is a blast to watch. As I like to sum it up, it's just weird shit he's running. And it works on a pretty consistent basis. Like, I have been very, very impressed with what he's able to execute there. I do wonder in general if the Jets would be willing to go back to a defensive-minded coach. Because sometimes what you see is after a defensive guy, they want to go to the offensive guy. That might be a slight negative thing from just the organizational structure standpoint. Number 5, and I put this higher on the list than I normally do, internal candidates. Because the Jets seem to think that they can win games right now, which I actually don't disagree with. So, 3 names, only one of which is actually serious. Aaron Rodgers on here. Look, hey, how many buddies have the Jets hired or signed in his time in New York? It's been several at this point. That has been a pretty consistent trend for this organization. If Jeff Ulbrich has success, if they are able to get to the postseason, he might just get to keep the job. Now, I'm glad the Jets did not make Hackett the offensive coordinator. He's not good. I think he's terrible. I think the rest of the NFL tends to agree on that. But it is at least suspicious timing, whether it is the suspicious leak from, I think, the Saleh camp, or all things are true and there's some truth on both sides of Saleh was considering firing the OC or demoting him, and then the head coach ends up getting fired. Fair or not, the accusations, Rodgers will never be able to beat them, that he influenced the Robert Saleh firing, because he has a lot of influence in that organization. Do you believe that? A for yes, B for no. Number 4 on this list, Bobby Slowik, the Texans offensive coordinator. I think in general, going with the young offensive mind is very popular, makes a lot of sense in the NFL. I do think Slowik is a little bit overrated right now. I do think he is benefiting a little bit too much from the Shanahan boost. But I do like a lot of what he does, and you can do worse than trying to go right back into the Shanahan well, which has worked out pretty well for at least some NFL teams. But the top young offensive mind is undoubtedly Ben Johnson. He's high on the list, but he's not number 1 or number 2 because I wonder if he wants the job. There's long-term quarterback uncertainty. There's short-term quarterback uncertainty because Rodgers not played great outside of that one game. It's been pretty mediocre this year. Still has time to get that stuff right. Don't get me wrong. It's Aaron Rodgers, still a Hall of Fame player after all. But Johnson has been selective in his jobs. He could have been the Panthers head coach twice now. Could have been the Commanders head coach. He's passed on both of all the jobs out there. He's had a lot of choices. He'll be patient. Jets might not be the right fit for him. There are some other, mostly young, Todd Monken's not actually young, offensive coordinators. And Kliff Kubiak's stock was hot and then fell down pretty quickly on that front. Zach Robinson has done some good stuff in Atlanta, but he's also a first-year OC. I like most of what Drew Petzing does in the ground game especially, but I think he's still got some room to work on in his passing concepts. The Bills have slowed down on offense, but if the Bengals ever fire Zach Taylor, you know Joe Brady will be a candidate there. He's kind of back on the right track a little bit as well. Now, for all the NFL news and rumors you could ever want, hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Number 2, it is Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. He's going to get a bunch of interviews. That is a lock. I think he is well respected by NFL players for the way he coaches, even if the results haven't been great, in part because of the talent deficiencies at times on that side of the football. But he played for the Jets from 1994 to 2001, and he was a scout from New York for 2012 to 2013. Could be the old, we're bringing him back into the family mindset. And he'll get interviewed. I promise you that. It's a question of, do you want to go with an unproven defensive coach when you just did that last time with Robert Salah? At number 1, though, and I think this is a pretty decent fit, is Mike Vrabel, the former Titans head coach. Now, he should have interest as well. There wasn't a ton of interest in him this time last year. He's currently kind of just hanging out as a Browns assistant more than anything else, which could also make him a candidate there if they blow it up with Stefanski, which I don't think it's actually his fault, but I digress. Vrabel's had some success in Tennessee. He made the playoffs 3 years in a row, won 2 playoff games. Not great back-to-back years. There was some weird ownership. I don't know, not dysfunction, but disjointedness in Tennessee. I think there should be interest in him, and I think having a proven head coach is maybe potentially high on Woody Johnson's list this time around, especially since there might end up being a new GM in there as well. Now, we will get to NFL Daily's mailbag next. So if you have questions, comments, use hashtag NFL or Super Chat to skip the line altogether. I do want to mention one thing. I think we can do... I already saw the political spectrum of it get involved on social media of Robert Saleh wore the Lebanon arm patch on Saturday or Sunday. Several things. A lot of coaches do that, and because the NFL encourages that stuff. That's why Nick Sirianni wears the Italian flag patch at times. There were like 300 coaches and players who did that last year. The reason why he wore the Lebanon one, that's where his parents are from. So, like, they were immigrants here. Like, that's why he did it. Like, that's not a new thing. He's been doing it for years now. So I wouldn't read anything into that. If you're going to go with the conspiracy theory, it's Aaron Rodgers forced him out. That's the conspiracy that makes more sense. Get your hashtags, hashtag NFL questions in via that hashtag or Super Chat. Skip the line and get yourself on the mailbag. We definitely don't have to do No Santana's P. Diddy one in the mailbag. Very funny, but I don't. YouTube might not like that one all that much. Before we get into today's NFL mailbag, if you enjoy these, if you like having a little back and forth, the questions, the comments, etc., then sub. Free videos every single day, live shows at this point twice a week in season. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. From EV, should Minnesota trade for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? There is uncertainty about how much time Aaron Jones is going to miss. I suspect this is going to be a multi-week injury that might not require an IR stint, for Aaron Jones. As for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, still battling some PTSD stuff, which is obviously extremely concerning for him. He also hasn't been that great of a football player in his time in the NFL. And he had like 3.2 yards per carry last season. So running back is an area of concern right now for Minnesota. If it is a short-term injury for Aaron Jones, probably just try to ride through it with Ty Chandler. But if it's a longer-term injury, I'd still probably explore a more impactful piece. DC times Viper. Are the Niners in trouble after their loss to the Cardinals? Are they getting exposed? Could Kyle be fired if they don't reach the Super Bowl? The Niners in general are in a very weird spot where, they have had kind of the worst side of the success, of general NFL success. When you're a good football team, when you are a well-coached football team, you lose those coaches. They get plucked and pulled away to be head coaches, to BOCs, etc., and you kind of have a challenging time, in some cases, replacing those guys. I think at times you felt that in San Francisco. They've had injuries this year, but normally when that happens, you have the Super Bowl to kind of fall back on. Like, yeah, we won that 2 years ago, whatever. The Niners have been so close and haven't been able to get over the hump and finish things. Now, it's a divisional game. The Cardinals do some good schematic stuff. They win that game if Mason doesn't fumble. And frankly, if the kicker doesn't get hurt, I think they win that game. So there's been some bad luck in that angle, but they haven't had a great start to the year. The injuries have kind of mounted. So I think there is some concern over the 49ers. I don't know if exposed is the right word in general. I kind of hate that word because I think it is oftentimes just used to mitigate all the good stuff that's happened. Not that's what you're saying, Viper. I think there are issues that they've had that have been kind of identified by teams. I'm not fully panicking yet, but they got to get back on track here. From Kevin, beyond Davante Adams, is DeAndre Hopkins the most logical trade candidate? Nice profile picture, Kevin. From outside the Titans, yeah, probably. Veteran receiver, rebuilding team. Teams need receiver help. Look at the Chiefs, looking at the Bills, looking at the Steelers, potentially the Ravens, Jets, and Saints all in the market. Some of those maybe more so for Davante Adams. So I would not be surprised if Hopkins got flipped, probably closer to the deadline than it would be in early October, at least is my guess. So how many trades between now and the NFL trade deadline? Is it 1? Is it 7? Is it 12? What's the number? Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. From Christian, is that it's Ben Affleck, Lamar Jackson at it? Is that what that is? Yeah, that's funny. At this point, Aaron Rodgers might as well just retire. He's old and washed up and injury prone. Jets need to draft a quarterback this year. Also, no disrespect to Rodgers, is a legend, but just retire my man. He's not going to. He's at least going to give it this year. And what's frustrating is we've seen some good Aaron Rodgers play this year. I think that to an extent, Aaron Rodgers and what he likes to do doesn't necessarily fit the modern NFL offense. I thought he played very well against the Patriots. I thought he was very good in that game. But he was bad weather, but he also just wasn't throwing that well against Denver. And then he was bad against Minnesota. And Brian Flores runs a much more impressive, dynamic, chaotic defense that makes it challenging on offenses. And at his age, he might not be processing quite as quickly. The athletic ability isn't there. The arm strength isn't there. He got several times by that stuff. I've called him washed up before, and then he's rebounded. He's 41 years old now. This might be the end of the line for the Hall of Fame quarterback. And at some point, I wonder how some of the younger players relate to the quarterback the same way that maybe they used to or didn't used to. Mike Zimmer should replace McCarthy next year. I wouldn't be surprised, but I actually hate that idea. If you're moving on from McCarthy, I think it'd make a lot more sense to go get a young, offensive-minded head coach that didn't have his best success a decade ago, or whatever timeline it was there. It makes sense for that the Cowboys do business, but I feel like all you're doing is hiring Mike McCarthy, but defense again. And I think that you should aim a little bit higher. You can stay as the DC potentially for a new head coach if it's a young offensive mind, but I think you're just kind of limiting your ceiling in the end. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. That is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for sure to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your guys gets hurt. If a player leaves in the first half, does not return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. I got a college football Prize Picks slate for you guys today. I like the Travis Hunter more than receiving yards. Will Howard less than passing yards. I think Jordan James will get heavily involved for Oregon with the rush and receiving more than 88.5. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Simply go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. You get that $50 instantly when you play 5. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. From Hugh Green, the second cousin of Marshall Green, I think. How do you think Drake May will do this Sunday against the Texans? We've often seen the quarterback change lead to good results. Sometimes it's more of a veteran quarterback change that gets better instant new results because there's no film on this guy and how he's going to play, and that makes stuff challenging for the defense. Houston's a really good defense, though. I love what DeMeco Ryans and company are doing on that side of the ball. The Patriots O-line is bad. I don't think it's going to look that great. My goal is for Drake May to not start seeing ghosts, not build up too much scar tissue, and show some flashes. If that happens, I think I'll call that a relative to expectations, successful debut. Arnold Johnson. Did the Panthers play Bryce Young to try to showcase him? I don't think so. As weird as it sounds, I don't think they wanted Andy Dalton to keep taking more hits. I think that was said in some capacity post-game in Carolina. They give him a chance to get some playing time. He was kind of running around out there doing backyard football stuff, which did some stuff at Alabama that was successful there too. I thought he looked a little bit better. It was also garbage time, so you can't read too much into it there. I think they just want to protect Dalton, which is a weird statement to kind of say out loud, but that's kind of where we're at. So will the Panthers end up trading Bryce Young this year? I think it's a very high chance next offseason, but before then. Y for yes, N for no. Richard Potts, Josh McDaniels to the Jets as the head coach. Of all the ideas, that is one of them. I'm pretty sure he's trolling, so I will be nice, but yeah, it's a horrible idea. That's not... nothing like hiring a coach who burnt bridges in 2 different spots and expecting something different. I don't even want him as my OC, let alone head coach. Dubo NFL. Who should the Steelers get at wide receiver? I mean, I think they need somebody here. The George Pickens stuff, it kind of is what it is. He's going to check out of some games. This is who he was at Georgia. Like, he wasn't always the most locked-in player. He was unhappy, and he showed it, and that's unacceptable. They need another guy. Van Jefferson, Roman Wilson's not there yet. I think that, I don't know. I think looking at all your options makes sense. I'm also not sure they're going to trade a massive asset to get one right now, unless Adams wants to play for a third or a fourth. Even then, do you have the quarterback in place to maximize that? I don't know. Scotty Anderson, can the Eagles flip Devin White or James Bradbury? Well, if you didn't hear, film this on Tuesday, I don't know what, 40 minutes before we went live, 30 minutes, somewhere in that time frame. Eagles actually cut Devin White. And I believe I saw they reached a settlement, which means they're not going to pay Devin White everything else that he was owed because White's going to go find somewhere else to play. I bet they shopped him. And I bet that he, didn't get the interest. The Eagles didn't get the interest in that they were hoping for. Which doesn't surprise me. White was overrated. It's very overrated. Always has been. Outside of that one brief run. James Bradbury, they'd love to trade for him. I don't know if anyone wants him, though. So name a player who you think gets traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. EV. Should the Bills bench Allen if he's not 100%? If it is because of the head injury, yeah, you have to sit him. Like, let's not be crazy here. If it's like a normal like hamstring thing and impacts his mobility, probably still keep him out there. But if he's just not 100% right for the head injury side of it, like, then you have to sit him. From Leon Vegeta Bulky. Okay, it took me a second to read through that name. Fire AP and Getsy. Hire a new coach. Trade Davante Adams. What's dicey is, are you going to be able to pay a third coach to not play for you or coach for you? It's a lot of money you're spending for a not massively cash-rich owner. I think they'll give at least Antonio Pierce another year. Luke Getsy, maybe not. The quarterback is a huge problem here, which everyone should have known going into this. I don't know why they hired Tom Telesco as their GM. Nothing like hiring the guy just got fired for not building a good enough team, right? Davante Adams trade will happen, though. Trenton, what should the Seahawks do on defense at this point? That's a good question. You got kind of sliced and diced by Daniel Jones, didn't you? Didn't stop the run that great either. Keep trying different things. I think having a true dynamic impact linebacker would go a long way, but I don't think they have that guy, and you probably can't get one at this time. For what Mike McDonald wants to do on defense, like I like Julian Love. You don't have your Patrick Queen or your Roquan Smith or your Kyle Hamilton. You got to find more pieces. I think it's more of a long-term thing in Seattle. Who do you think will be the Jets' next head coach? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Who's it going to be? A lot of routes to go. I like the Mike Vrabel, Aaron Glenn connections. Those are my two perfect ones. Belichick, I don't think, because I don't think that relationship ended very well between Woody Johnson and Belichick. The Jets and Belichick in general, kind of don't think that would go over very well. No Santana 14. This just in. Jets hired Mitchell Renz as the new head coach, stating, and I quote, "We will bang on offense this year." It's very on brand, and I love it. No, thank you. That's a good one. I'll screenshot that and send it to Mitch because I think he'll appreciate it. Let me pause the chat so I can do it. Belichick wants to coach because he wants that record, but I think he wants to go to a better win now. So he don't want to rebuild. And the Jets could be barreling down a rebuild path. So who will be the next head coach? It's Brian Flores. I'd be surprised. I wonder, fair or not, if he's going to get a chance. There's just baggage involved there Although I love what he does on defense. He's a great defensive coordinator. That might just be what he's best at. Funny, Derek. I could see like a surprise, like you go after Kirby Smart or something. I could see Woody Johnson doing that. And then Kirby doesn't have to deal with as much of the off-the-field players getting arrested shit again. Got a bunch of issues there for him. I don't know what's going on, but they got to figure that one out. Got a Vince McMahon comment in there. That's funny. All right. Who will be the Jets' next head coach? Let me know in the comments before we start the next segment on today's live NFL Daily. Who will end up trading for Davante Adams? A very large question. Many people want to know the answer to. We'll break down the latest on him and other NFL key topics in just a second. But get your predictions in for me in the comments of today's show. Let's talk Adams trade. The Athletic and ESPN both reporting that the trade talks should pick up this week, with the Raiders now trying to move him more frequently. The hamstring injury should be less of a concern, and the Raiders willing to move on from whatever the hell happened between Adams and Las Vegas. Maybe they just didn't like the quarterback. Who knows? Now, the Raiders reportedly want a second and more. I would be pretty surprised if they got the and more part, and they might not get the second. Now, maybe they can get a couple extra picks overall and get close to second value, but I think given the age, the contract stuff we'll get into with Davante Adams, the value is not as high as it was when Las Vegas first traded for him. I think there are 5 main teams to watch out for here. The Jets, how does the firing of Robert Saleh impact this? Are they going to trade assets with an interim head coach? I don't know. The Saints, having now lost Derek Carr, it seems like for several weeks, is a question mark on the desire to go play with Derek Carr. Now he's not going to be there. It's all interesting. The Steelers, who are in the market for wide receiver help, but are they willing to meet the demands? The Ravens, I think, are a pretty sneaky, solid option. The Bills still need a legitimate number 1 receiver. It would give you more time for Keon Coleman. Let Khalil Shakir be the slot guy. I think Ravens and Bills are nice value picks there. Don't expect the Chiefs, by the way. I very much don't think that the Raiders would have any interest helping out a division rival by exploring the idea of adding Davante Adams and sending him to Casey. That doesn't strike me as something that they would want to do. Adams is still a really good football player. Is he the same obvious top 5 receiver he was at his prime? Probably not, no. But he'd still help a contender. And you would feel good if you added him. Like that is the fan base is excited type of pickup. And I don't think anyone would blame the fan base that ends up getting him. I don't think anyone would be upset by that one. So first question, or I guess second one of the day. First one would be the pinned comment. How about that? Will the Raiders get a second-round pick back for Davante Adams? Type 2 for yes or 3 for no. 2 for the second, 3 for the third or later. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's video if the ad comes here on YouTube. Now here's how the contract works. If you trade for him now, before week 6, you owe, I'm rounding on these numbers here, $12.56 million. That drops by just under $1 million each week. 11.59, 10.62, 9.65, 8.69. Now, the Raiders can eat some of that money if they want to. It's all roster bonus stuff or game time bonus stuff and additional base salary stuff, so that they can eat some of that money if they want to. They might not want to, and that might boost the trade value, which I think is probably worth it, since you're going to be paying some money this year and next year for him no matter what. Now, long term, Adams' contract for 2025 and 2026, that big, heavy base salary, is not guaranteed. He will not play under it as currently constructed. One of 2 things will happen. He will get extended, or they will cut him. And that extension could come before or during the trade process right there. In general, with the way the contract is set up, with some potential desperation teams get closer to the trade deadline, patience and or eating money could help the Raiders get more back in a trade. So I think they have their asking price. They would love it if somebody met it, but they might be willing to wait a little bit longer. Or maybe they go, we just don't want the distraction anymore, and we're going to take whatever we can get. I'm curious how the Jets and Saints developments, head coach firing, quarterback injury could potentially impact this as well. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. If you're trying to go to a football game, a baseball game if your team's still in the postseason, an upcoming basketball game, upcoming NHL game, Game Time is the place to do it because you're going to save the most money. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out some of the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It is curation designed to save you even more money. Toggle the all-in pricing feature to show your total cost up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. The lowest price guaranteed from Game Time is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? It's game time. Let's talk to Deshaun Watson before we come back to more trade rumor stuff here. To, I think, few people's surprise, frustration, yes, surprise, no, Kevin Stefanski has backed Deshaun Watson again, but the calls to bench him are very loud. And I can't say I blame anybody involved. Now, look, it's not just Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. The running game has not been very good. The quick passing game has struggled. That's certainly some part of the Deshaun Watson blame there. The offensive line has not played well. Obviously, there's been a lot of pressures there. But there's also no way to ignore this fact. Deshaun Watson doesn't look good in Cleveland. He looks significantly worse than what he did in Houston. The numbers have skyrocketed. The interceptions, the touchdowns have not been very good. The accuracy has gone down. The yards, everything is bad. And if you go back and look at some of the film stuff, yeah, the offensive line's bad. There are guys open. He's just not. Deshaun Watson is not seeing the football field well. He is not processing. He is not reading defenses properly. Some of the advanced stats back this up, by the way. His pressure rate is third highest. That's an issue. The average time to pressure against, the first one is just Watson. This one is all Browns QBs, so it is just very much only a, but it's mostly a Watson stat, is tied for 20th. So the average time is longer than most teams, which means their quarterback's holding the ball long. The average time to throw is 7th highest. The pressure to sack rate is 6th highest. So yes, there's pressure. Yes, the offensive line is getting beat. But Watson's holding the ball forever. And it's not just the pressure stuff that's bad. When not pressured, Deshaun Watson goes from overall playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in football to one of the worst quarterbacks in football. He is 27th out of 32 in completion percentage. Dead last in yards per attempt. League average in touchdowns. Bottom 10 in interceptions. And the worst EPA per play. Now, one of those I'm pretty sure was the drop by Amari Cooper that picked off, so wasn't just Deshaun's fault. But when not pressured, he's terrible. I can't win with that. Like, he is a problem. He's probably the problem. So should Cleveland bench Deshaun Watson? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. One of the issues here is your ownership willing to say, you know what? Let's just deal with the Watson contract shit. Let's play Jameis Winston. I'm convinced if you put Jameis Winston out there on the football field, just like last year with Joe Flacco, the offense overall suddenly gets better. The big issue you face here in Cleveland is this contract sucks. This is one of the worst contracts ever given to a player. Now, they have restructured this deal repeatedly, which they might as well have because it's fully guaranteed. They couldn't get out of it unless they get the NFL to suspend him for something. Like, look, he's a $73 million cap hit next year and in 2026. There's dead money in 2027. If you cut him this upcoming offseason, you owe him $172+ million next offseason. Now, the reason why it's so high is you've restructured some stuff, that's fine, but you were already paying it because you gave him a fully guaranteed deal to get him to come not play for the Falcons. I think that's where he wanted to be until the Browns sweetened the offer. Like, you can cut him post June 1st and you only lose an additional $46 million in salary cap space. They're screwed. That is a horrible spot to be in. Like, you can barely afford the rest of your team. It is an albatross around your neck that there's really no signs of life. And it might end up costing Stefanski's job, even though I really don't think it's his fault. We'll stick in Cleveland here with the Amari Cooper trade. The trade rumors around Amari Cooper continue because the Browns are struggling. Amari looks off, by the way. He'll say the right things publicly. But if you're just not going to be a good enough football team and you're going to do a multi-year rebuild, you're going to have to look into just shopping and selling some players here. In 2024, Amari Cooper has 8 drops this season. 8 drops. That by the way, I don't think it's an accident that Amari Cooper's 3 most dropped, or season with the most drops, have come from Browns quarterbacks. That's probably not an accident that all of a sudden his most drop years happen to be in Cleveland. Maybe not the most catchable balls. Now, I think he's regressed a little bit too, but he can still help you out as a football player. I think that is the case. And his contract is very team-friendly. It is basically the vet minimum. Now, I think in what is probably the most damning Deshaun Watson stat out there, well, there's a lot of them that are out there. Per ESPN stats, 45% of passes thrown to Amari Cooper have been off target this season. Unbelievable. Every time a ball goes his way, he can't catch it. It's off target. That sucks. That's bad quarterback play. Now, Amari's pretty cheap the rest of the way. The Browns, with their philosophy is, if we're going to have you on our roster, we're going to restructure your contract and push it off in the future and save money, which I actually don't mind it as a strategy. It's just an issue when the quarterback contract is really, really, really bad. Cooper's due the vet minimum. So if the Browns keep losing games, teams will call. Teams will have interest in him. So name a wide receiver who you think ends up getting traded. We'll talk some other names here in a second, but let me know in the comments section of today's show. Some other trade targets here that I think are worth monitoring have been mentioned by other outlets, etc. DeAndre Hopkins, if the Titans keep losing, veteran player teams are going to call about him. The Christian Kirk status with the Jags, contract's kind of high, but similar mold of there of Hopkins if it all falls apart in Jacksonville. Jalen Hyatt's requested a trade, allegedly, and then said he didn't, so weird stuff going on there. He's also not playing in New York. The Patriots allegedly shopping Tyquan Thornton, which I don't know who wants him because he's not very good. So he's available, though, for a washing machine. Maybe is the trade value there. So did the Jets make the right call firing Robert Saleh? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. It's the pin poll as well. And I apologize for clearly I think just one person, by the way. who's just being a jackass in the comments. So sorry he was there. I have one rule in the chat. Don't do isms. Guy did a lot of them, so I'm sorry. This last time I just removed him as soon as I saw the name. Probably a miserable human being. So I'm sorry you guys had to deal with that. So good job, mod team. Blocking him. So then just with the right call, firing him. Y for yes, N for no. Well, not that kind of ism. I guess. I think you guys know what I mean by isms, right? Like what I actually mean. I'm not talking capitalism. I'm talking about the bad isms or whatever. Y for yes, N for no. We will have our Red Zone stream again this Sunday. You guys have some fun on that. Don't miss out on any of our streams, any of our coverage. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv.